Hey everybody, we're back here at PBEXPO. Joining me today, I have Alan from Expedite OBC. How are you doing, Alan?
I'm doing well. Thank
Good.
you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit about your business and what you do. Super interesting. Can you give us a little insight into Expedite OBC and what you're all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Expedite OBC is part of the logistics world, but it's a very, very specialized type of logistics. That's a time-critical hand carry operation.
Okay.
What that means basically is that we have a courier that will actually pick up something that's time-critical. It could be an aircraft part, it could be tissue for surgery, and we'll get on the NFO, next flight out, going to anywhere in the world that it's going to, get there, clear customs, that's why they need the courier, so it's not held up in customs,
Right.
and then pass it off, either take it to the hospital for surgery or hand it off to the mechanic if it's an aircraft on the ground, and that's their mission.
Okay. And so how long have you been doing this for?
Okay, you are now talking to the longest active OBC, again, OBC stands for On Board Courier, in the world today.
What?
Yeah, I started doing onboard courier hand carry in 1987.
Okay.
Back then, communism was still around the world, and it was
Yeah.
very difficult to communicate. There was no computers, no way to check in. Nowadays, we're tracked every inch of the way.
Right.
Back then, there was no way to check in. If we got to Russia, we'd have to go to like a FedEx facility to use their fax machine. If any of you listeners know what a fax machine is, that's was a way to send documents.
Yeah.
Before we could
Email
and WhatsApp and that type of thing. So, yes, I've been doing it for many, many years, and the industry in time critical has really changed, really for the better, though. You know, everything can be done like that.
Right. I would imagine that travel is just so much smoother than it used to be in the past. Maybe. I could be wrong.
You know, yes, it is. Travel is a lot smoother, of course, because technology allows me to have my plane ticket on my phone, to have every single piece of communication on my phone, from the mission that I'm on to the communication I do to be tracked where I'm at. Because you got to remember, back in when I first started, really in 86, 87, computers were just coming out. The many plane tickets were written by hand.
Right.
And there would be carbon paper underneath. And you'd get your slip, and the ticket agent would get their slip, and travel. However, I must say that I started traveling in the 70s with my father back in the day when you got dressed up to go on a plane, and flying was just a different world in the service.
Yeah.
People, they'd have a smoking section, which didn't mean anything because the whole plane would fill with smoke. However, it was more of an upscale kind of way. Now you can be in first class with someone in their shorts and flip-flops. It's a different world, but still, I have to say, business and first class amenities and stuff is the way to go nowadays if you can get on it.
Yeah, for sure. And so how much of your business is aviation specific, and what type of things are you carrying?
Okay, so that's probably the best question in terms of what we do. And the majority of time-critical hand carries around the world are aviation. So I would say about an easy 80%, 8 out of 10 of all of our jobs are dealing with AOG, or aircraft on the ground, where, as we know, that if an aircraft is down, a Lufthansa jet down in Barcelona, it's going to cost close to $200,000 a day for that plane to sit there.
Right.
Now, the part might be in Miami, and it needs to get there. If they send that part in, UPS or DHL, it can spend a day or two in customs. If they send it with a courier, we're going to have a customs agent waiting for us at the other end. Might take an hour or 2 hours, depending on where it's at. If you're in some places like Guadalajara or El Salvador, you might need a few extra $100 in your pocket to help it get through customs. But you're going to clear customs. You're going to save them $100,000 or more to get a courier over there. So that's the main job of a courier, whether it's a true hand carry, meaning that you're actually taking the part on board and it's with you.
Right.
For instance, anything medical, which is about 8% to 10% of the work, that type of stuff needs to always be physically with the courier. Especially if it's a transplant organ, even bone marrow, 4 to 8 hours to get it from the time of donation.
Right.
So it can't be at a site.
Okay. And you were just telling me about this bone marrow story. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I left on Thursday over to Ukraine to. There was a donation. There was a match out of Kiev. A donor there was actually trying to donate for one of their family members. They didn't have a good match, but it matched. It goes on the database, the bone marrow,
Right.
and it matched a patient, a young patient in Omaha, Nebraska. So I flew out there to get the donation. It turned out she wasn't able to donate enough, but they knew Russia was just about to start their invasion.
Right.
The pressure was on. They were already going to evacuate some of the hospitals, so they moved her. We got on a train, got to Warsaw, Poland. She entered one of the hospitals there, did the donation, and then as she was donating, the rockets started raining down. And
jeez.
And
yeah, that's crazy. So the work that you're doing is like pretty incredible, and the impact that it's having, whether it's from like a business standpoint or from like a medical standpoint, impacting people's lives. It's pretty
That's
cool.
true. That's exactly true. So the impact is happening on a great scale on both fronts, like you said. Of course, on the medical side, in what I do, there's about 2,000 registered onboard couriers. I know that because I do sales for some of the largest companies, and they all work for all the same companies. So that's their roster. But there's about 600 that are active almost full time.
Okay.
When they're doing bone marrow, they're saving people's lives for sure. That's part of the chain of custody that helps save people's lives. Yeah, they're getting paid for it and stuff, but it takes on a special meaning when you're doing a medical hand carry as opposed to an AOG part. Just as critical, of course, getting people to their destinations and
Right.
keeping planes flying is saving hundreds of thousands of dollars for a company or an airline using a courier. So that's also important to people's lives and affects things in many ways. So it's a fun job.
Yeah.
And couriers get to travel the world, but they're also part of something very critical, in that world.
It's interesting because I don't think, if you asked probably 9 out of 10 people, they probably would never think of an onboard carrier being a career path for them. How does someone get into this? And is there like certifications to become a person that can handle these types of trips?
All right. So that is the number one question I'm asked no matter where I travel in the world. That is the question. I'm sitting on an airplane. Hey, what do you do? I do this. How do I do that?
Yeah.
So I answer that question often, and mostly what it is, now that there's a large worldwide base of couriers, it grew by word of mouth. What, you delivered this part to Barcelona and then you got to hang out? How do I do that? And then someone would tell them, and then they would sign up. And now it's kind of saturated, but there's still plenty of opportunity for someone that's a go-getter to get into it. The very first thing I tell them is Google 3 words, On Board Courier. When you Google those 3 words, 50 different companies are going to pop up, from DHL to there's a company here that has a booth called AGOL. There's my company, Expedite OBC. They're all going to come up. Wings, that's a Lufthansa. Wings and Time Matters. That's a Lufthansa-owned company.
Okay.
They're all companies you can sign up for online, and you still won't get anywhere because they don't know you. But then someone that does their work and is a go-getter and goes on to LinkedIn and connects with the operation directors, then does some emails. All of a sudden, they're going to get requests. Are you available? You might live in London. Are you available out of London for a job today? Yes, I am. And that's how it starts. Signing up for as many companies as possible, making yourself available, and then learning as much about getting visas and passports. If you can get multiple passports, you're going to have more opportunity.
Right.
If you have visas that can get you into countries that don't, you can't just go in on an e-visa or with your current passport, that's even better. If you have status with airlines, you're going to be preferred over someone that doesn't. And the reason for that is, I don't mean to just keep talking.
No, go ahead.
The reason for having status, if I'm in Miami and a job comes through and they say to 2 different couriers, are you available? And the other courier is available and I'm available. And it's not a true hand carry, meaning I'm not carrying it on the plane. It's 10 boxes that I have to put on the plane. Well, if I'm executive platinum with American Airlines, they're not going to charge me. They're going to say, Mr. Spivak, sure, take those on. Thank you for being such a loyal customer. If it's someone who has no status, they're going to be charged maybe $1,000 or $1,200 for that extra baggage for those boxes. So the company's going to want to use me. They don't want to spend any extra money. They already gave the quote. So a combination of these factors of having status with airlines, of having multiple visas or multiple passports, speaking multiple languages, and understanding and being cool and collective to travel around the world makes you a good candidate, and no experience is necessary except for that. Having said that, which is a good Seinfeld thing, which is not a... having said that, then you say something else. But having said that... the exceptions are a medical courier or dealing with tissue, and you have to have a certain training for that. Not always a certification. In America, yes, but at least each company that deals with medical stuff, bone marrow, has their own 2 or 3 day training period and testing to make sure you understand how to handle and pack it and facilitate that and that type of thing.
Very cool. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. You're my first... courier that I've ever met. So
all right, well, we broke our cherry. This is my first time on. Can you say that? This is my first time on a podcast. So we're both cool. First timers.
Learning new stuff.
And I've always been interested in podcasts, so I'm really happy that you chose me to be on here.
Yeah, of course. Well, it was nice meeting you. Great to learn more about what you're doing, and we'll talk soon.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.